Hey there, my friend. Welcome back. We might have just seen each other this morning, but this afternoon we're actually making the pie. This morning prepared the pie crust for you and shared with you all kinds of great ways to, great tips for making a homemade pie crust. And now we're gonna make my favorite pie, which is the pumpkin double chocolate cheesecake pie. The recipe is linked here in the comments. It's also in the caption. If you're catching this later, be sure to look for that in the comments. Oh, my kids just got home and they're so, what'd you get on the slide? Get all wet? Great, okay, well anyways. So we're making pie because tomorrow, well, we're gonna eat a lot of pie. Also, if you need somebody to tell you this, now, I'm giving you permission to eat pie for breakfast on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like whenever you need to have your pie for breakfast. So that is that. Let's get to making this pie. The first thing I need to do is grab the pie crust that we made earlier from the fridge. So I made this morning. You can go check the videos tab here. I'm sharing all the hacks and tips and tricks for making a homemade pie crust. So I'm gonna shift view really quickly. And I also want to offer you this while we're here. Do you have any questions about what you're cooking? My sister has called me no less than 6 times this week to ask me questions about oven timing and how to cook things. So if you have a specific question, do your best to ask it in the comments, you know, kind of concisely, and I will answer it while we are cooking here. So this is going to be, let me get this on the counter just right here. All right, we are making, sorry, I'm gonna shift it a little forward. All right, pie crust. Let's start by getting this homemade crust into this, okay? If you see all these little gadgets that we have here, we do have available in our store. I want you to know about these pie stamps, and I also want you to pick which one I'm gonna use. So while I am getting this going, would you please tell me, should I use the hearts? Should I use the leaves? It's kind of a fall pie, maybe, although it's a pumpkin, so maybe not. Or, hello, Aaron. Or the swirlies. So tell me in the comments, swirlies, leaves, or hearts. And you tell me, and I will make the one you tell me to use. So these are what we're gonna use to decorate our pie crust. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is spray my pie plate. I'm using a 9-inch pie plate. Nice and coated. All right, this is a very cold pie crust, and we want it that way. Pie crust is much easier to work with when the dough is chilled. I'm actually going to roll this wrapped first. You can see the gorgeous marbling that's happening there. I'm just gonna give this, isn't my tiny little guy cute? Okay, you gotta tell me which one I need to use. I like rolling it when it's in the saran wrap or wax paper because it holds, sometimes the edges will start to break a tiny bit and it will hold that together, okay? So just while I get it flattened out, and then I'll remove that and I'll switch over to flour. I'm gonna show you this marbling. This is why I love homemade pie crust, because you can see all that marbling of the butter and the fat, or if you use shortening, the shortening. And that's gonna be what makes it so delicious and flaky. All right, I gotta get it out of here. I've done as much as I can. Okay, I am making pumpkin double chocolate cheesecake. The recipe is in the comments. It's also in the caption of this video if you're watching later. So can you see the marbling? Can you see that? Like the lighter yellow is where the big butter pads are. It's gonna be the flakiest parts. All right, a tiny bit of flour onto the surface. You can do this on your counter. I do like this because it has the measuring lines. I've had this for a long time. To be honest, I use it just a couple times throughout the year. Of course, today being one of those days. Just a thin layer of flour. And then I'm gonna flour my rolling pin. And if your dough is nice and chilled, you don't have to be shy about pressing it out. Okay, just, you want as even as possible. Some rolling pins have that like guide on them. You can use that if you want, but I usually don't. It's not too hard to get this even. Okay, we want as circular as possible. I can see I need to go this way a little bit. I should get a bigger rolling pin. Hint, hint, husband. Steve just walked in, he's right over there. A rolling pin for my stocking, perhaps, instead of this tiny cute guy. He's like, oh, sure, yeah. Basically, anytime I ask for a kitchen gadget, that's a pretty easy win. All right. Oh, that marbling, you're kind of stretching that out a little bit. You can just see that's gonna be gorgeous. If you did not catch the video this morning of me making this dough, go watch that. Okay, now, you'll start to see a little breaking happening here. I'm not super concerned about that because I'm gonna reshape the edging anyways, okay? So if that happens, you could kind of like roll towards those breaks and try and seal them up, but we can also seal them up here in a minute when we transfer this. All right, how to transfer this? I could just get this guy right here. I think this is gonna be big enough. I have the markers. It's not perfectly lined up here, but let me do one more kind of this way. This side looks a little bit taller. Okay, I don't think there's gonna be any rippage in here. So you can use a spatula, you can use like a really flat spatula of sorts. If you have like one of the scrapers, you can use, I'm just gonna use this just to make sure that it's not gonna stick. I can feel in the middle, it's a little sticky. Pulled up a lot of that flour that I put down. I don't want that to happen. Whatever like flattest spatula edge you have, okay? So now we need to get this into the pie plate that I've already greased. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold it into quarters. Some people will lay it over the rolling pin, but because my rolling pin is so small, I might actually be able to pick it up like that. I did in half. So sometimes you can do it into quarters, but this half is plenty. I did preheat the oven to 375. That's what I'm cooking this one at. Okay, now for this part, this is where, you know what, I'm gonna use my other pie plate. Maybe not. Time out, Spurs. I live in San Antonio and Spurs fan, so sorry about. I'm switching pie plates. Oops, my bad. This one doesn't have the edging I thought it had. We're gonna just do the same thing. Fold it in half, switcheroo. I want this edging so that I can do the decorative edging, right? So I need that. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do now. What I'm gonna do now is fold under. Again, I need you guys to tell me which one I should use. The leaves, the swirls, or the hearts. This is what we're gonna go around the edge, but I need you to tell me first. Leaves, swirls, or hearts? Okay, before I can do the stamping though, these pastry stamps are so fantastic. Perfect for pie crust like this. Also really great for fondant if you ever do any like cake decorating. So I'm just going to fold the edges underneath and then even out the crust. And if there's a big looping part over like this is like a big, see how much that's lopped over? Then I'm gonna like actually pull the crust back into the base and then fold under. Sorry, can you see this? I'll get you a little closer. All right, we're doing the crust now. Jennifer says swirls, so does Shar. Okay, guys. Maybe it's gonna be swirls. Somebody disagree with them. I think the swirls would be nice. So this is a pumpkin chocolate cheesecake that we're doing. I do think that would be nice. I feel like the leaves I would do for like an apple pie or even just like a plain, like a spiced pumpkin pie. Okay, so fold over so you have that nice round edge. And then if you need to push back, and then if you have any breaks like right there, just give it a little pat, a little seal so that we don't have any breakage in the crust. This is going to have a layer of chocolate chips. Yes, please. Did I get your attention with that? Then it's gonna have a bit of a cheesecake layer. And then it's going to have, in this case, I actually need to push the crust back this way so that I can get the edging all the way up around the top here. You can even like push a little bit Sometimes I will tear, like I'm gonna actually tear a little bit of this off over here and just place it here and then use my fingers to kind of pinch that dough back together, making sure that it's well sealed and no, the top layer of this is pumpkin and like a pumpkin pie. So I don't want any pumpkin to leak through the crust. It's a little bit more liquidy. The cheesecake layer is thicker, this cream cheese based, but I don't want the top layer to seep through here. Okay, so let me just go around one time like this, get it nice and even, and then we're gonna stamp, and then we'll get to our layers. It's so good, I cannot wait to eat this. Okay, swirls it's gonna be. So all you're gonna do is just press and give it that swirl and then line it up with the next one. Ooh, it wasn't edged far enough. I'm actually gonna give it a little spray. Yeah, bub. I'm gonna push it out a little bit over the edge just to get that full swirl on there. Maybe we'll do like a half and half. No, I'll just do swirls all the way around. This is gonna look so cool. If you don't have the stamps, you could use your fork. You could pinch with your fingers, like make like a ridge with your fingers. I'm just doing a cooking spray on here so that now that this dough is a little bit warmer, I don't want it to stick to this. Sorry, I have a... All right, there we go. Swirls, love it. Perfection. Okay, now chocolate chips. Just a thin layer, one even layer of chocolate chips need to go into the bottom. And then we're gonna do our cheesecake layer and our mini, oops, you never know what's gonna happen when you're live. Mini or regular. You won't need it's just one thin layer. It doesn't have to be completely covering it. These are gonna essentially melt and create kind of the bottom of the cheesecake layer, but you also don't want like a mountain of them either. So you want them to be nice and like on the bottom layer. All right, next we're going to mix up the cheesecake layer, which, can you see a little friend right over here? Austin's trying to say hi. All right, let's grab a bowl. Here we go. 2 bowls, one for the cheesecake layer and one for the pumpkin layer. Okay, so if you're just joining us, we are making a double chocolate cheesecake pie. This is 8 ounces of cream cheese. And to this is softened. I did set this out a little while ago, so that is an important step in all of this. Let me just get this corner bit. Softened cream cheese. And then we are going to do a little bit of sugar, 1/8 of a cup of sugar, just a tiny bit, just to give it a touch of sweetness. There's gonna be, you obviously have the chocolate chips. We're gonna have the sugar. There we go. And we're gonna have cocoa in this layer. Next, we're gonna add 5 tablespoons of baking, which is chocolate cocoa. Baking chocolate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm gonna mix that together with a fork. And then stir in an egg. And this is gonna be the cheesecake layer. The cocoa, I like to do this first, so just kind of press it in because the cocoa is real powdery and I don't want it to like fly everywhere. So I'm gonna do this first before I mix in 1 egg. And then this is going to be the cheesecake layer. Could do this in a stand mixer, I suppose, but this is fine. It's quick to do, especially if the cream cheese is already softened. So I'm just using the back of a fork to just kind of mix that in there. Okay, what is your favorite pie? This is my favorite pie. I want to know your favorite pie. Like when you go for things, like is it pecan pie, fudge pecan pie, apple pie, like apple streusel, like or like a crumble pie? Like I want to know your favorite. All right, we're gonna add 1 egg. Okay. Tell me your favorite pie. And any cooking questions you might have too. And I've been answering my sister's cooking questions, so I want to know yours too. All right, so this is the cheesecake layer. That egg is going to kind of pull all that together, mix in all that cocoa, and then we're going to spread this as thin as possible onto the chocolate chips. I suppose you could mix the chocolate chips in here, but I really want that kind of double layer effect happening, so that's why I do it that way. You could mix them into this, but it's fine doing it this way as well. Okay, so now I need like a good spatula. Where's my good spatula? Here it is. And then I'm gonna do a whisk while I'm over here for that pumpkin. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is transfer this cheesecake goodness layer, make sure that's nice and flat, right here. And you're gonna have to spread it a little bit. It's gonna be a little thick, but that's okay, it's supposed to be. Again, you could have mixed in the chocolate chips. Maybe I should. This is actually easier to do when you have mini chocolate chips, but I grabbed the wrong bag from the pantry, so we're just going with it, as we do here on our Facebook Lives. Actually, let me get most of this in here and then I'll work on spreading it out. Really want to scrape that chocolate cheesecake goodness here. And again, this is raw eggs, so don't chop. All right, let me get all this out of here that I can. And then we're going to spread that thin. All right. One more scoop. All right, we want this even layer. And probably what I'm gonna do once I get this is I'm probably going to do, sometimes I do this with cookie dough. I just put a little water on my fingers and then spread it that way. The fat and the cream cheese and the water do not mix. So just press into that thin layer. A little bit more water. The water is not going anywhere, so don't worry about that. Try not to ruin my edging here. Okay, and then the next layer is going to be for the pumpkin. Now that that's wet, this spreads a little bit easier. Uh-oh. Can you guys hear that outside? Goodness. I need to get that over to the edge. Hang on. Press, 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 all the way to the edge. Okay, chocolate cheesecake layer is done. Let's move on to the last one. Let me wash up real quick. The pumpkin layer is going to be the last. Now this is going to fill up this pie plate, okay? Which is perfect, exactly what we want. So we are going to do 1 can of pumpkin puree. If you have like a pumpkin pie mix already, you could use that with the eggs. So that's already going to be sweetened. It's already going to have spice in it, but I'm just doing the like the full pumpkin version. Okay. So let's do 1 can of pumpkin. 2/3 cup of brown sugar. Again, if you're using like the already sweetened pie filling kind, skip the sugar and the spice. It just will need the eggs. Okay, 2/3 cup of brown sugar. I'll use that to scrape in a minute. We're gonna do 2 teaspoons of pie spice. This is my homemade pie spice. I have the recipe on the $5 Dinners blog. And then we need to add 4 eggs. So this total takes 5 eggs. 1 in the chocolate cheesecake layer and 4 in the Char's making pecan and pumpkin. Those are such classics. I love them both as well. This one though, ooh, I feel like it just sort of like, it's easy enough. I mean, it is an extra layer here with the chocolate chips and the cheesecake, but so delicious. And we're just gonna mix all that together. And then we're gonna fill up that pie plate. I've made this many times. It actually fits best in a quiche dish, a deeper 9-inch quiche dish. This fits perfectly. There might be a little bit of extra pumpkin here. And I might just make a few little like tartlets or something with the extra pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going to fill this up and even it out using as much of this as possible. Okay, a little bit more. Actually, maybe we will use most of it. This will rise a little bit, so I don't want it to be too, full, because the eggs that are in this pumpkin layer will absolutely rise. But I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna actually take a little bit out. It's a little too much. I should have left the first amount in there. Okay, and then of course you can spread it out if you wanna do like a little swirly design or whatever. This is not the best device for a swirly design, like a cake frosting spreader would probably work a little better. I'm just gonna kinda do this, really to even it out. I feel like this side needs a little bit more. Okay. Because this is so full, I am going to bake this on a baking sheet because I don't want anything to burn on the bottom of my oven. So I am going to do that, and I am going to put this pie shield on here. This is going to be in the oven for 375 for 1 hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. This crust will get so dark if we don't protect it. So I'm just gonna this is my new pie shield and I love it. I'm gonna lay it and then sort of lock it in here. I'm gonna try to keep it from touching the, there's these little notches over here. Keep it from touching the pumpkin. Again, that will rise off of, that pumpkin layer will rise a little bit. And I don't want it to, I'm gonna pull this back a little bit. Perfect. So this is ready for the oven. So this is double chocolate cheesecake. We made homemade pie crust. I showed you how to make that this morning, and then I was letting it chill because it's a lot easier to work with a pie crust once it is, when it's nice and cold. It also gives the flour and the butter, in this case, the fat, time to get together and hang out and mingle so that it ends up with this nice and flaky crust once it's baked. Then we added a layer of chocolate chips, regular or mini. I think mini worked the best. Then we added a chocolate cheesecake layer made with cream cheese, sugar, cocoa, and an egg. Spread that out there. I used a little bit of water to help spread that out into the cocoa layer. And then we added a layer of pumpkin pie, which is a can of pumpkin puree with 2/3 cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, and 4 eggs. We're going to, I filled that up as best. I have a teeny tiny bit left over. I might be able to make like 2 little pumpkin pie muffins or something. We're going to bake this at 375 for 60 to 70 minutes or until it is set in the middle. And then you're going to let it cool, transfer it to the fridge, cover it loosely with some foil, and then serve it chilled. This is a cheesecake pie, so it really is best when it is served chilled. You can add a little whipped cream if you'd like. It's already got that creamy cream cheese layer in it, so I don't think it's necessary to add whipped cream, but it also wouldn't hurt. So go for that if you want that as well. So that is how you make a pumpkin double chocolate cheesecake. So with that, I am going to get this into the oven so that it has plenty of time to cool tonight, and then we can enjoy it with our Thanksgiving feast tomorrow. All right, friends, that's it for this week's episode. Go back and watch that homemade pie crust. I share lots of really great tips and hacks in that one. And I wish you a very blessed and very delicious Thanksgiving. And I look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Dinner Made Easy show.